Welcome back to the 10th Norse world of Valheim. You may find yourself thinking, Dylan, I've lived in the Black Forest free from fear, harvested enough bronze and tin to start an industrial revolution, and taken on or are about to take on the second boss, the Elder. What's next in this year's viral hit game? Well, look no further, cause I'm back with 10 more tips to help you survive another mid-game biome, the Swamp. My name is Dylan, and if you find these tips helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Welcome to the couch. The first issue with the swamp is going to be the distance. With the map seed system, you might get lucky, but typically the swamp won't spawn on your starting island. Not only will a boat be required, but so too some way of quickly regaining your equipment should the unthinkable happen. There are a few options, but either way, our first tip is all about boats. I would recommend skipping the raft in favor of the carve for 3 reasons. 1, the carve is much faster. 2, the carve has a storage hold. And 3, it looks way cooler than the raft. It takes a few more resources, but all of them should be obtainable on the first island. We'll need some fine wood found from cutting down birch trees, aka zebra trees, or oak trees, aka thick boys, in the meadow biome. Bronze nails, which can be crafted from bronze bars, some resin, and a few deer hide, which should be readily available. Once you've gathered the materials, plop a workbench near some water, drop that boat down, and buckle up. Once you get in the carve, a few things are added to the HUD which indicate how the wind direction is being utilized. You must sail roughly with the wind at your back. The sides will work, although less effective, but if you are sailing into the wind, you must retract the sail and rely on paddling with the rudder until the winds are favorable again. The arrow on the map shows the actual direction of the wind, with the circle on the right showing it relative to your position. While controlling the boat, just remember that it handles like a boat, not a motor vehicle. You must reset the wheel after a turn and choose an appropriate speed. All of this information can be seen in the wheel icon above the rudder. Once sailing, you can move around the boat for some awesome views. Now that we have a boat, our second tip is about establishing a forward base. The ideal spot would be a meadow biome close to a swamp or even a small island off the coast. Black Forest bases are risky because if a troll gets too close, they'll tear it down in seconds. I was able to find a peninsula on a small stretch of Black Forest far enough away from where it looked like trolls were spawning, but take your time finding a good spot, you could be there a while. Once you have a basic shelter, there are 2 options for a quick retrieval should you be killed and need to recover your equipment. 1, build a bed, or 2, build a portal. The bed is easiest, requiring just some wood, roof, and a fire. A portal takes a little bit more planning. It requires fine wood, gray dwarf eyes, and surtling cores, which until now are very finite and used mostly for metalworking. Before leaving your main base, place a portal down and tag it. I labeled mine Swamp to make it easy, but it can be anything as long as it matches the second one. Bring the materials to make a second one, plop it down in your newly finished fort, give it the same tag, and after a second or 2 it should be active. You now have an instant portal between 2 points. You can make as many as you want for a large portal network as long as you have the materials and make sure the tag is the same. You can either have multiple portals at your main base or use one, changing the tag depending on where you want to go. Experiment for what's best for you. The portal will provide a quick way to resupply or repair broken metal tools. Don't forget to build some walls and wooden stakes just in case those pesky grey dwarves don't appreciate the new architecture. Now that we have a hopefully solid foothold on a distant land and a quick way back home, our third tip is about being prepared. What weapon to bring to explore the swamp? While all the new weapons that came with bronze look cool and provide more options, one weapon stands out among the rest, the mace. This is because the worst enemies in the Black Forest and the swamp are susceptible to the mace's blunt damage type. Skeletons shudder, blobs buckle, and even the boss of the swamp is weak to it, whereas the slash and piercing from the swords, axes, pole arms, and even the bow are less effective. A bow can still be useful for picking off enemies at a distance, so be sure to bring one, but at least at this point in the game, in my opinion, it's hard to justify using any other weapon type. Let me know in the comments if you disagree, what your favorite weapon is, and how to use it. But a good weapon won't be enough this time, as we'll also need some advanced healing items, mead. In my last video, I outlined how you can easily get queen bees from hives with a workbench. Our fourth tip is about how we'll put that sweet, sweet honey to better use. To make meads, you first have to place a cauldron over a fire using a few tin bars. It's a crafting station just like the forge or workbench, and interacting with it will reveal the recipes. All of them require honey in addition to gathered materials, finally a use for those damn dandelions. The two most important are minor healing when in a pinch and poison resistance. Crafting them will create the mead base, which must be fermented in a fermenter, which needs fine wood and a few bars of bronze. Place the base inside, and after 2 days, you'll have some mead. The poison some enemies of the swamp can inflict can be devastating, but the poison resistance will make it significantly more manageable. While we're using the cauldron, our fifth tip is about making better foods. While raw mushrooms, berries, and honey can give us the small boost needed for early biomes, we'll need something a little hardier with better bonuses for the swamp. This biome is a great place to farm materials from enemies for these next level meals. Intestines from Draugr can make sausage, blood bags from leeches can make a more powerful medium healing mead, and turnip seeds can be planted with a cultivator to make turnip stew, an upgrade of the also strong carrot stew. Just be sure to save some turnips or carrots to plant as seeds for a sustainable cycle. Not only will these foods give better bonuses, but they last a lot longer too, often more than twice as long. Before we finally set foot in the swamp, this sixth tip is about an important character you may or may not have already met, Haldor the Merchant and his trusty Lox Hallstein. Because of the seed system, Haldor may be an easy find, or he could be on the edge of the map, but always in the Black Forest and usually closer to the middle of the map. If you're having trouble finding him, you can use Seeds Online, or the one I'm using, where he's on the next island over. Once within a certain distance, he'll automatically be marked on the map. Haldor sells 2 items that can make mining iron, the main reason we want to go to the swamp easier: the Verger Circlet and Megingjord. The Verger Circlet is basically a mining helmet that projects a conical light in front of the player. Megingjord is a must-have. It increases your carrying capacity from 300 to 450, which is a huge bonus and will make mining in the swamp much quicker. Haldor also sells other useful items. He is currently the only source of Emir Flesh, an advanced crafting material, as well as the fishing rod and fishing bait. Placing a portal near Haldor is a great idea, and enemies are unlikely to attack it if it's close enough, since he has runes to repel them. We're finally ready to venture into the swamp. One of the hardest things about this biome is the terrain. It's a very wet place where it's always raining, which saps our stamina regen. Swimming without stamina incurs damage, compromises maneuverability, and invites leeches, who also inflict poison. There's just a whole lot of nope to getting in the water in the swamp, so tip number 7 is about making the swamp terrain work in your favor with the hoe. Flattening the terrain, as long as you're at a higher elevation, can actually raise the ground a bit, often enough to dissuade leeches coming close to you and making it easier for you to move. While it isn't necessary to completely drain the swamp, creating paths in high-trafficked areas makes it both physically and mentally easier to move. The enemies in the swamp are bad enough without fighting the terrain too. This tip will also make the boss easier, since any Terraria veteran can tell you how crucial it is to make sure you have a boss arena that tips the scale in your favor. While all this prep may seem extreme, the swamp is a considerable step up in difficulty, and ill-prepared adventurers can easily die from a myriad of ways. My first trip to the biome, a blob jumped in my boat and poisoned me, leaving me no option but to wait until I died with no easy way of retrieving my equipment. The 8th tip is what you should do in the swamp biome first: locate a sunken crypt. These are the dungeons of this biome and are actually safer than the surface itself, since enemies are easier to spot and are less likely to overwhelm you. The main reason for this are the muddy scrap piles that separate the rooms. These are also the main reason we want to be in the swamp biome. They must be mined with a pickaxe and ensure that no more than an enemy or two can reach you at any time, and with careful mining you can even pick them off with a bow from a distance. Just be careful of blobs since they can blend in with the environment and can still poison you if you get too close. Have those poison resistance meads ready. But Draugr are really just stronger skeletons. The muddy scrap piles will drop leather scraps, withered bones, and most importantly scrap iron, which are used to make iron bars. In addition, chests down here can often contain large amounts of scrap iron. I've probably gotten about half from chests and half from scrap piles. Keep in mind, like copper and tin ore, scrap iron is extremely heavy, and given the terrain and dangers of the swamp, cart transport is pretty unlikely. Even with the carry weight bonus from Megingjord, you won't be able to carry much more than one stack of 30. The most limiting factor will be your pickaxe durability, which is why a forward base with either a forge or a portal to a nearby forge is so important. Expect many runs back and forth, which the hoe trick will make much easier. At this point, you should be getting a little bit more comfortable navigating and fighting in the swamp, but to really tame these wetlands, we'll need to turn that scrap iron into iron equipment. Unfortunately, metal ore and metal bars cannot be transported through portals. You could either bring all of the materials to make a second self-sufficient base on a new island, or, for tip number 9, use the boat to transport massive amounts of raw materials back to your home base. The Carve is the first boat with a cargo hold, another reason to skip the raft. While it only has 4 slots, these operate independent of weight, making them perfect for transporting heavy material like scrap iron, and 4 slots is plenty to make a new, better boat, the Longship. Not only is it bigger, faster, and stronger than the Carve, but it also has a whopping 16 slot cargo hold. If you were to fill all 16 slots with a full 30 stack of iron scraps, that's an unbelievable 480 iron bars once transported back to a furnace. Just remember to harvest some ancient bark, as that is also necessary to create a longship and can be transported through a portal, saving you a trip. With a few more scrap iron in your inventory, this is enough iron bars to make fully upgraded iron armor, mace, huntsman's bow, pickaxe, woodcutting axe, and either a banded or tower shield with a few bars left over. Given how important the boat is for achieving this feat, tip number 10 is be careful with the boat. Enemies will attack it, including Draugr, skeletons, and grey dwarves, but also aquatic creatures like necks and leeches. If it's destroyed, some materials will float, but any nails or gathered ore will sink, and with no way to dive as of right now, will effectively be lost. With portals and potentially multiple ships, it can be easy to lose. I'm still not sure if my first Carve was destroyed by enemies while I wasn't looking, or still somewhere out there. It's also why establishing a base with a bed or portal as soon as possible is crucial. If you decide to make a tower for no reason and fall to your death like an idiot before you put down and claim a bed or tag a portal, you're stuck back on your home island with no or very few ways of getting back. I've made at least 2 rafts of shame this way, and trust me when I say you'll feel really foolish when you realize you never claimed the bed or tagged the portal. Don't make the same mistake I did. And while most sailing in Valheim is peaceful and picturesque, you'll still want to stay vigilant of sea serpents. The Carve you left behind might be enough to outrun them, but your shame raft can't. So don't lose your boat. Map pins can be useful here, or add more confusion if you forget to remove them when you sail away. Leaving a boat to go mining is a constant source of anxiety, but once you jump out, it pretty much stays in the same place, bobbing up and down with the waves. This could knock it against underwater rocks, so be sure to check or repair it every resource dump. I'm still playing around with dock designs, but this is my first attempt at a rudimentary dock. The walls are so far out that the Grey Dwarves are forced to swim so they can't attack, and lined with wooden stakes if they try to hug the walls. It worked long enough to get a full longship cargo hold, just be sure to repair the wooden stakes too, since they take damage anytime an enemy, or you by mistake, touch them. And that's all my tips for conquering the swamp biome in Valheim. It's a considerably dangerous place even for veteran Valheim players caught unaware, but with a little patience and a lot of preparation, you too can carve out a place to call home in the most inhospitable biome yet. If you have any tips yourself or think I left anything out, be sure to let me know in the comments. I'm loving, living, and still learning Valheim, but with 3 million copies sold in less than 3 weeks, I'm excited to see what's next. If you want to see what's next from the Couch Brothas, be sure to ring that bell icon and hit that subscribe button. If you found any of my tips helpful, please give it a like. I'm Dylan, and until next time, Skoool!